ECB president actually bring in regulations? As Daniel Lakaya, he's the chief economist at the Tresses hedge fund. He's also the author of Escape from the Central Bank Trap.
Obviously, Ms. Lagarde does not have the power to implement legislation relative to cryptocurrencies. But obviously, she's an important voice in Europe and a very important voice in the financial world. So her comments are heard, and numerous governments would be very, very happy to implement strict regulations on cryptocurrencies. Fundamentally, because as we are seeing, cryptocurrencies are rising dramatically as a response to a very aggressive policy from central banks. And the European Central Bank is probably the one that is conducting the most aggressive monetary policy of them all. Its balance sheet is already 61% of the GDP of the Eurozone, whilst, for example, the Fed's is about 34%. It is leading so aggressive purchases of sovereign bonds that even almost insolvent countries throughout the Eurozone are issuing bonds at negative yields. So central banks don't like competition in the creation of money. And obviously, cryptocurrencies are competition and are a consequence of these aggressive monetary policies.
And what would regulation look like, and does it pose a risk to investors?
Obviously, regulation is not bad if it is to facilitate transparency and to improve the access and to small investors and the level of transparency about liquidity and the availability of an asset. That is fine. I think that the problem is that when they talk about regulation here, is more implying intervention or prohibition. Complete prohibition, as in, for example, banning the possibility of using financial measures to buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or other cryptocurrencies, as we have seen in some economies. I think that is the dangerous part. I think that obviously regulation that facilitates the transparency of an asset is good. But I think that it's extremely dangerous that the president of a central bank implies that almost all of the investors in cryptocurrencies are in some form trying to hide money laundering activities. That is absolutely outrageous when we all know that the vast majority of money laundering globally is conducted in fiat currencies, particularly in US dollars and euros.
She called it reprehensible. Does that surprise you?
I think that is, yeah, well, it does certainly surprise me, because obviously money laundering, terrorism financing, all these things are reprehensible. Of course they are. But you don't hear the president of a central bank or the governor of a central bank say that it's reprehensible for and condemning an entire currency, be it the US dollar, the yuan, the yen, the euro, whatever, because a small proportion of the users of that currency may be utilizing it for money laundering purposes. I think that's, money laundering is reprehensible, but you cannot just make the equivalent that money laundering and Bitcoin, or that money laundering and cryptocurrencies are one and the same. I think that is what I think very, very, very negative and definitely not correct.
Interesting. Bitcoin, big headlines already this year. I think it's going to be a big year for it.
Oh, absolutely. As long as central banks should look at cryptocurrencies as a response to what they're doing, and they should see that if their actions were not as aggressive and as absolutely incredible in terms of money supply growth and in terms of the impact on financial assets, then they should not be worried about cryptocurrencies. Central banks should be extremely concerned about the bubble in sovereign bonds, not about what cryptocurrencies are doing.
I saw you tweeting it out. Daniel, really appreciate your analysis as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.